"Daddy, can she go to the amusement park with us? What the billionaire father does shocks everyone." The Saturday morning sun lit up the Oak Ridge amusement park like an invitation impossible to refuse. Colorful balloons floated in the sky, cheerful music spread through the air, and the smell of cotton candy enveloped everyone who passed through the entrance gates. In the main line, Callie held her father's hand tightly. Her 5 years fit entirely into that small grip, while her blue eyes observed every detail around her. Her blonde hair, tied in 2 uneven pigtails, bounced as she jumped with excitement. "Dad, look, there's a huge carousel inside," Callie pointed, standing on her tiptoes. Calder just nodded. His face held the seriousness that had become his companion for the last 2 years, ever since he lost his wife to an illness that took half of him with it. What was left was entirely dedicated to his daughter. Perhaps that's why he had agreed to come to the park, despite hating crowded places. "We'll go in soon, but no rushing, Callie," he said, looking at his watch. "The line is moving." That's when Callie saw her, a girl with almost white blonde hair standing on the other side of the fence. She wore a light blue dress that looked like it had been washed too many times. Her eyes, a green so light they almost disappeared in the sunlight, were fixed on the rides inside the park. She didn't cry, she didn't ask. She just gazed with an intensity that didn't match her 5 years. "Dad," Callie tugged on Calder's shirt sleeve. "Who's that girl?" Calder followed his daughter's gaze, noticing the small, solitary figure. "I don't know, honey. She's probably waiting for her parents." But Callie couldn't take her eyes off her. There was something different about that girl, something that made her heart ache in a strange way. "Can I go talk to her?" Calder hesitated. "Better not, Callie. We'll lose our spot in line." The line moved forward a few more steps. They were almost at the ticket booth now. Calder was already holding his wallet, mentally calculating what this day would cost. Tickets, snacks, rides, souvenirs that Callie would surely want. It wasn't cheap to give a child joy these days. That's when the unknown girl looked directly at Callie. She didn't smile, didn't wave, just looked, as if she realized she was being watched. For a moment, something invisible connected the two of them. "Go on," Calder sighed, noticing his daughter's restlessness. "But come back quickly, it's almost our turn." Callie let go of her father's hand and ran to the fence. Up close, she noticed the girl had light freckles scattered across her nose and cheeks, and her eyes were even lighter, like lake water on a sunny day. "Hi, my name is Callie." "What's yours?" The girl looked down, as if she didn't expect anyone to speak to her. "Ember," she answered softly. "Are you going into the park too?" Ember shook her head no. Her small fingers tightened on the metal fence. "Why not? It's the best place in the world." Callie pointed inside, where children ran among colorful rides. Ember's face turned red. She looked at her own worn-out shoes, then at the park and finally at Callie. Suddenly, her eyes filled with a frustration that seemed too big for her small body. "I don't have any money," she exclaimed, the words coming out louder than she intended, loaded with a sadness she couldn't hide. Callie took a step back, surprised by the outburst. For a moment, she was speechless. In her 5 years of life, it had never occurred to her that some children couldn't go to parks. In her mind, parks were for all children, like the air or the sunlight. She looked at Ember, then at her father in line, and then back at the girl. Without a second thought, Callie stretched her hand through the fence and took Ember's hand. "Do you want to come with us?" she asked with a huge smile, as if she were offering the most natural thing in the world. Ember's eyes widened, unsure if she had heard correctly. I can." "Callie, let's go," Calder's voice called from the line. It was their turn at the ticket booth. Callie pulled Ember by the hand toward the fence. "Come on." "I'll talk to my dad." She ran back to Calder, pulling on his sleeve until he bent down to listen. "Dad," Callie whispered, though her whisper was perfectly audible. "That girl doesn't have money to get in. Can we take her with us? I already invited her." Calder looked at Ember, who now stood timidly near the fence, her light eyes filled with a cautious hope. "Callie, we don't know this girl. Is she with someone?" "Her mom, I think." Callie pointed to a woman sitting on a distant bench, flipping through what looked like a newspaper. "Can we ask? Please, Dad?" Calder sighed. The line behind them was starting to get impatient. This wasn't how he'd planned the day. It was supposed to be just him and Callie. A few hours of controlled fun, then back home before the late afternoon crowd arrived. Getting involved with strangers wasn't part of the script. 2 tickets, please, he said to the ticket booth attendant, ignoring his daughter's request. Callie's head dropped, disappointed. She glanced one last time at Ember, who was still standing in the same spot, the hope on her face beginning to fade. Actually, Calder paused, surprising himself. 3 tickets, please. Callie's face lit up instantly. Really, Dad? Let's see if her mom allows it, Calder said, taking the 3 tickets. Tess, but I'm not promising anything. They stepped out of line and approached Ember. Calder noticed how the girl took a step back, wary of the approaching strange adult. Hello, he said, crouching down to her level. My daughter Callie would like to know if you want to join us in the park. We have an extra ticket. Ember's eyes widened, looking at Callie, then at Calder, then at the tickets in his hand. I have to ask my mum, she said finally. Of course, Calder replied. We'll go with you. The 3 of them walked to the bench where the woman was sitting. As they approached, she looked up from her newspaper, which Calder could now see was actually the classified section, with several job ads circled in red pen. Mommy, Ember called out timidly. This girl wants me to go to the park with her. The woman looked surprised at Calder and Callie. She had the same light eyes as her daughter, though hers seemed more tired, more worn by time. I'm Calder, and this is my daughter Callie, he introduced himself. We're going to the park, and Callie would like your daughter to accompany us. We already have the tickets. The woman hesitated, clearly uncomfortable. That's very kind, but I can't accept. You don't even know us. Please, Mom, Ember whispered, her voice barely audible. It was the first time her eyes showed something other than resignation. There was a small spark of hope there. I'll be in the park the whole time, Calder assured her. If you prefer, you can come too. I can buy another ticket. The woman shook her head. I can't afford to— that won't be necessary, Calder interrupted gently. It would be our treat. A tense silence hung between the adults. Meanwhile, Callie approached Ember. There's a huge carousel in there, she said, and cotton candy in every color. Ember didn't answer, but her eyes shone. Leah, the woman finally said, extending her hand. My name is Leah, Calder, he repeated, shaking her hand. I can't go, Leah explained. I have some job interviews to call about, but if you really don't mind taking Ember— I don't mind, Calder assured her. Callie could use some company her own age. Leah looked at her daughter, seeing the hope growing in her eyes. She straightened Ember's worn-out dress and smoothed her blonde hair. Behave, listen to Mr. Calder, and I'll meet you here at 5, okay? Ember nodded solemnly, as if she were receiving the most important mission in the world. At 5 o'clock sharp, Leah reinforced, kissing her daughter's forehead. Then to Calder. Thank you. Really? With that, the unlikely trio passed through the park gates. Ember held Callie's hand as if it were a lifeline, her eyes wide at the colorful world opening up before her. Where to first? Calder asked. The carousel, Callie shouted immediately. Ember just smiled, a shy smile that seemed unaccustomed to appearing. The carousel spun in hypnotic circles. Ember chose a white horse with gold details, while Callie rode a purple unicorn next to her. Calder watched, feeling something strange in his chest, something he hadn't felt in a long time. It was almost like happiness. Then came the other rides, the Ferris wheel that made Ember grip Callie's arm tightly, the bumper cars where the girls shared the same vehicle and laughed every time they collided with others, the house of mirrors that made them giggle at their distorted reflections. In the middle of the afternoon, they stopped to eat. Calder bought hot dogs and sodas. He noticed how Ember ate slowly, savoring each bite as if it were the most precious thing in the world. Want some ice cream? He asked when they finished. Ember's eyes lit up, but she shook her head. No need, sir. I've already eaten a lot. I'm sure there's room for ice cream, Calder insisted gently. What flavor do you like? Strawberry, Callie answered for her. Everyone likes strawberry. Actually, Ember said shyly, I've never tried pistachio ice cream. Is it really green? Calder smiled, the first genuine smile of the day. "It is. Let's find out if you like it." Sitting on a bench, the girls shared a huge bowl of ice cream, half strawberry for Callie, half pistachio for Ember. Their little faces were smeared with ice cream, and Calder realized he couldn't remember the last time he'd seen his daughter so happy. As the day went on, the differences between the girls became evident. Callie was expansive, spoke loudly, ran from one ride to another. Ember was restrained, observant, thankful for every little thing. But together, they seemed to complete each other in some way. When the clock struck 4:30, Calder announced it was time to start heading for the exit. "One more ride, please, Dad," Callie pleaded. "Just one more," Calder gave in. "You choose." The girls talked in whispers and decided on the haunted house. It wasn't really scary, just costumed actors and exaggerated sound effects, but it was enough to make them cling to each other and scream in unison. When they came out, they were holding hands and couldn't stop laughing. "Was it very scary?" Calder asked, feigning concern. "Not one bit," Callie answered, though her face said otherwise. "Just a little bit," Ember admitted, still laughing. They reached the main gate at exactly 5 o'clock. Leah was already waiting, the folded newspaper under her arm. When she saw her daughter running towards her, her face transformed. "Mommy!" "It was so cool," Ember blurted out, speaking faster and louder than Calder had heard her all day. "We rode the carousel and the Ferris wheel, and we ate hot dogs and pistachio ice cream, which is really green, and we went into the haunted house." Leah smiled, stroking her daughter's hair. "Sounds like you had a lot of fun. Did you thank Mr. Calder?" Ember stopped immediately, turning to Calder with a solemn expression. "Thank you, Mr. Calder. It was the best day of my life." The simplicity and sincerity of that sentence hit Calder like a punch to the chest. The best day of her life. An afternoon at the park, something he considered normal, routine, was the best day in this child's life. "It was my pleasure, Ember," he replied, his voice slightly choked up. Callie approached Ember. "Can we play again sometime?" Before Ember could answer, Leah intervened. "Do you live around here?" "On Maple Street, number 47, Calder replied. "Not too far." "We live on Water Lane," Leah said. "On the other side of town, but maybe we can arrange something." Ember tugged on her mother's sleeve. "Can I tell her?" Leah hesitated but nodded. "My mom lost her job. That's why things are tough," Ember said softly, just for Callie to hear. There was no shame in her voice, just the same simple honesty as before. "Hi, but she'll find another one soon." "I'm sure she will," Calder said, having overheard unintentionally. He looked at Leah. "If you need anything." "We're fine," Leah replied quickly. "But thank you for today. It meant a lot." They said their goodbyes and started to walk away. Ember walked with a new lightness in her step, almost skipping beside her mother, still recounting details of the day. "I liked her, Dad," Callie said, watching the two of them grow smaller in the distance. "Can we play again tomorrow?" Calder looked at his daughter. Something had changed in her today, a different sparkle in her eyes, an openness that wasn't there before. And, he had to admit, something had changed in him too. "We'll see," he replied, taking her hand. "We'll see." As they walked to the car, Calder cast one last look at the distant figures of Leah and Ember, a single mother and her daughter, facing the world with dignity, despite the hardships. Something about that image stuck in his mind. Two lives separated by a simple park queue, two different worlds that, for a brief moment, had touched, and maybe, just maybe, they would continue to touch. 3 days had passed since the trip to the park. Callie couldn't stop talking about Ember, during breakfast, at bath time, before bed. Questions about when they could meet again came up so often that Calder began to seriously consider the idea. On Wednesday morning, he decided to take Callie to the small park near City Hall. It wasn't as big as the amusement park, but it had swings, slides, and an open space where children often played. Calder thought it would be good for Callie to get a little distraction. Autumn was beginning to paint the trees red and gold. Dry leaves covered the park ground, forming a colorful carpet that crunched underfoot. The air was crisp, with that special scent that only autumn brings. a mix of damp earth and fallen leaves. "Can we make a pile of leaves and jump in it?" Callie asked, her blue eyes shining with anticipation. "Of course," Calder replied, sitting on a nearby bench. "Just don't go too far." As Callie started to gather leaves, Calder watched the other parents and children. There were fewer people than usual, probably because of the cool wind. He opened a book he had brought with him, but his eyes scanned the pages without really reading the words. It was Callie who saw her first. Dad, it's her, it's Ember." Calder looked up from his book. On the other side of the park, sitting alone on a bench, was a small blonde figure he recognized immediately. Ember was wearing the same light blue dress and a thin cardigan that looked too small for her. "Can I go talk to her? Can I? Callie was jumping with excitement. "Let's go together," Calder replied, closing his book and standing up. They crossed the park. Ember hadn't noticed them yet. She was swinging her legs, which didn't reach the ground, and staring intently at a group of children playing on the swings. "Hi, Ember," Callie called out when they were a few feet away. Ember turned her head quickly. Her light green eyes widened in surprise, and then a shy smile appeared on her face. "Hi," she replied softly. "What are you doing here all alone?" Callie asked, sitting next to her on the bench. "Waiting for my mom," Ember explained. "She went to a store near here to ask for a job." Calder looked around, searching for Leah. He didn't see her anywhere. "Is she usually gone for long?" he asked gently. Ember shrugged. "Sometimes yes, sometimes no. Depends on if the store owner wants to talk to her." There was something in the casual way she spoke that broke Calder's heart. A 5-year-old shouldn't be so used to waiting. "Do you want to play with me while you wait?" Callie asked, pulling Ember's hand. "I'm making a mountain of leaves." Ember's face lit up. "Can I really?" "Of course you can," Calder answered. "I'll stay here and wait for your mum to come back, to let her know where you are." Ember nodded solemnly and hopped off the bench. Callie immediately pulled her by the hand toward the pile of leaves she had started to form. Calder watched the two of them go. He sat on the bench Ember had just left, thinking about how he could help that family. He didn't know much about Leah other than she was a single, unemployed mother. But something about her, her dignity perhaps, or the way she cared for Ember despite the difficulties, had impressed him. On the other side of the park, the girls were busy collecting more leaves for their pile. They laughed and talked as if they had been friends for years, not just acquaintances for a few days. "Your pile is small," Ember commented, critically looking at the mound of leaves. "It needs to be much bigger for us to jump in it." "Then let's get more leaves," Callie exclaimed. "That tree over there has a ton falling." The two ran under a large oak tree. There were indeed many fallen leaves there, some yellow as gold, others red as fire. Ember picked up a particularly large leaf and examined it. "Look, it looks like a hand," she said, opening her small fingers against the leaf. "It has 5 points, just like our fingers." "Wow, you're right," Callie exclaimed, picking up another leaf to compare. "And this one looks like a heart," Ember smiled. "We can make a collection of different leaves. My mum taught me that each type of tree has different leaves." "Like people have different faces?" Callie asked. "I guess so," Ember replied thoughtfully. "My mum says the differences make the world more beautiful." For a while, they forgot about the leaf pile and focused on finding the most interesting ones. Ember showed Callie how to identify different types, the pointy ones from the oak, the round ones from the poplar, the long, thin ones from the willow. "You know a lot of things," Callie commented, impressed. Ember blushed slightly. "My mum teaches me. We spend a lot of time walking in the park, so she shows me the trees, the birds, and the flowers." Eventually, they returned to the task of building the pile. When it was big enough, Callie took a few steps back, got a running start, and jumped into the middle, disappearing in an explosion of colors. Ember hesitated. "Come on, it's fun," Callie called, her head emerging from the leaves, her blonde hair covered in colorful bits. Ember took a deep breath and jumped. The leaves scattered around her, some floating before falling again. She giggled, a sound so pure and happy that Calder, even from a distance, couldn't help but smile. The girls continued jumping, rebuilding the pile several times. When they finally got tired, they sat on the ground, surrounded by leaves. "I've never jumped in leaves before," Ember admitted, pulling a leaf that had gotten stuck in her hair. Never, Callie asked, surprised. Ember shook her head. My mum always says not to get my clothes dirty. Here it's hard to wash them. Callie looked at Ember's dress, now with a few dirt stains and pieces of leaves. Do you think she'll be mad? Ember looked worried for a moment, but then she smiled. I don't think so. She's happy when she sees me playing. Sitting side by side, they began to share confidences as only children can, sincere, unfiltered, building invisible bridges of friendship. Did you know I have a collection of shiny rocks under my bed? Callie revealed. Some of them glow in the dark. Really? Ember's eyes widened. I have a collection of bottle caps. Some have really cool drawings. You can see my collection one day if you want to come to my house. I'd like that a lot, Ember replied, a cautious hope in her voice. What's your favorite color? Callie asked. Blue, like the sky, and yours. Pink, like cherry blossoms. And favorite food? Macaroni and cheese, Ember answered quickly. And yours? Chocolate ice cream, Callie laughed. Ice cream isn't food, silly. Yes, it is. It's the best food. The two of them laughed, rolling in the leaves. After a moment, Ember got serious. Can I tell you a secret? But you have to promise not to tell anyone. I promise, Callie answered solemnly, leaning in to listen. Sometimes, Ember lowered her voice to almost a whisper. I talk to my dad. Your dad? Callie asked, confused. But you said, he left before I was born, Ember explained. But sometimes, when I'm alone, I pretend he's there. I make up what his voice would sound like, and we talk. Callie considered this for a moment. What do you talk about? About everything, about what I learned, or when something cool happens. Sometimes I ask for advice when I'm sad. And does he answer? Ember nodded. In my head, yes. He says he's proud of me and that one day he'll come back. Callie took Ember's hand. Do you think he'll really come back? Ember looked up at the sky where white clouds floated slowly. I don't know. My mum says he won't. But sometimes, when I wish really, really hard. She didn't finish the sentence, but she didn't have to. Callie understood. I talked to my mom too, Callie confessed. She died when I was really little. I don't remember her much, just what she smelled like flowers after the rain. Ember squeezed Callie's hand. We're alike then. Yeah, Callie agreed. We are. From his bench, Calder watched the two girls talking. There was something special in the way they connected, a mutual recognition, perhaps, of something missing in each of them that the other somehow filled. A woman entered the park, looking tired and a little disheartened. Calder recognized Leah immediately. She looked around, concern growing on her face when she didn't see Ember on the bench where she'd left her. Calder stood up and waved. Leah, over here. She looked in his direction, the concern being replaced by surprise and then relief. She approached quickly. Hi, Calder, right? She asked. Where's Ember? He pointed to the girls playing in the leaves. Over there. She and Callie ran into each other. I hope you don't mind. No, of course not, Leah replied, watching her daughter. A soft smile appeared on her face. I haven't seen her this happy in a long time. They get along well, don't they? Calder commented. Callie hasn't stopped talking about Ember since the trip to the park, Leah smiled. Ember too. That day meant so much to her. A comfortable silence settled between them as they watched the girls. Finally, Calder gathered his courage. I was thinking, what do you think about having a picnic next Saturday? There's a beautiful field on the outskirts of town. The girls could play and it would be nice. Leah seemed to hesitate. Aunt, that's very kind, but please don't think I'm being nosy, Calder hurried to say. It's just that Callie really enjoys Ember's company, and honestly, I think it would do her good to have a friend. Leah looked at the girls again. Ember was laughing, her face lit up in a way Leah rarely saw. All right, she agreed. But let me contribute something for the picnic. It's a deal, Calder smiled. Saturday dawned perfect for a picnic. The sky was a light blue, dotted with white clouds that looked like cotton. The air was cool but not cold, with a gentle breeze that barely rustled the leaves on the trees. Calder picked up Leah and Ember at 10 in the morning. They were waiting for him in front of the small apartment building where they lived. Ember was wearing a different dress today, light yellow, with small embroidered flowers on the collar. It looked new. "Good morning," Callie shouted from the back seat of the car as they approached. Ember smiled shyly. "Good morning. I brought cucumber sandwiches and a lemon cake," Leah said, showing a paper bag. "It's not much, but it's perfect," Calder interrupted gently. "It will go great with the cold chicken and fruit salad we prepared." The drive to the field was enlivened by the girls' chatter in the back seat. Callie pointed out all the interesting spots along the way. The ice cream shop that sold the best sundaes in town, the library with the colorful children's section, the small zoo where 2 lazy lions lived. Leah spoke little, but Calder noticed she was more relaxed than the last time they met. Occasionally, she asked questions about the town, about the places Callie mentioned, and Calder answered with pleasure, happy to see her opening up a bit. The field was 20 minutes from town, a large open space surrounded by leafy trees. Wildflowers grew in colorful patches, and a small hill offered a view of the city in the distance. "It's beautiful," Leah commented as they got out of the car. "Callie and I come here sometimes," Calder explained, taking the picnic basket from the trunk. "It's peaceful, and the girls can run around as much as they want." They found a perfect spot under the dappled shade of a large oak tree. Calder spread a red and white checkered blanket on the grass. The girls helped arrange the food while the adults unpacked plates and cups. Lunch was a cheerful meal. The girls ate quickly, eager to explore. Leah praised Calder's chicken, and he, in turn, declared her lemon cake was the best he had ever tasted, which made Leah blush slightly. After they ate, the girls asked to play on the nearby hill. "To stay where we can see you," Calder instructed. "And don't get too close to the edge," Leah added. The two nodded solemnly before taking off, their laughter echoing behind them. Calder and Leah sat on the picnic blanket, a comfortable silence between them. Occasionally, they commented on the girl, who were now busy picking wildflowers at the top of the hill. "Callie is different," Calder observed. "Happier, more open since she met Ember." "Ember too," Leah said softly. "She's always been quiet, observant, but with Callie, she laughs, talks, plays like never before." On the hill, the girls had created a game. They picked flowers and turned them into characters in a story they made up together. Daisy was a princess. A dandelion was a wizard with a white beard, and small purple flowers were soldiers protecting the kingdom. And then Princess Daisy said, "I won't let the evil dragon take my treasure," Callie narrated dramatically. "And the dandelion wizard used his powerful magic to create an invisible wall," Ember continued, getting into the spirit of the game. From where they were, Calder and Leah could hear fragments of the fantastic story the girls were weaving. Calder noticed how Ember, normally so reserved, now gestured excitedly as she described an epic battle between good and bad flowers. "She has an incredible imagination," he commented. "Books," Leah explained. "We don't have much, but we read together every night. Stories are our escape." Calder looked at Leah with new respect. "You're a good mother." She shrugged, uncomfortable with the compliment. "I do what I can. It's not always enough." "It seems more than enough to me," Calder replied. "She's a wonderful child." The girls were now picking more flowers, forming small, colorful bouquets. Their blonde hair shone under the midday sun, like 2 little stars. "I'd like to get to know you better," Calder said after a moment. "And your situation." Leah looked at him, wary. "Why?" "Because..." Calder hesitated, choosing his words carefully. "Because I like to help when I can. And because Callie has never been as happy as she is with Ember." Leah didn't answer immediately. Her eyes followed her daughter, who was now coming down the hill with Callie, both carrying bouquets of wildflowers. "I'd like to meet her mother," Calder said in a low voice, more to himself than to Leah. "Who knows, maybe we can do something." The girls arrived running, their cheeks flushed and eyes bright. "Look, Mommy, we made a bouquet for you," Ember exclaimed, holding out a small bunch of colorful flowers. "And this one's for you, Dad," Callie said, handing hers to Calder. The adults accepted the gifts with genuine smiles. Calder noticed how Leah smelled the flowers, closing her eyes for a moment as if to memorize that instant of simple happiness. The girls went back to playing, this time inventing a new story about fairies who lived inside the flowers. Calder watched as Callie and Ember moved in sync, finishing each other's sentences, laughing at the same things. It was as if they had been friends their whole lives. Beside him, Leah seemed to be considering his words. Finally, she spoke. "Maybe we can talk. Someday." Calder nodded, satisfied. It was a start. The rest of the afternoon passed in a golden haze of sunder, laughter, and made-up stories. When they finally started packing up to leave, Calder realized he hadn't felt so at peace in a long time. And when he saw Ember and Callie sleeping in the back seat during the ride home, their heads resting on each other, he knew that something important had begun in that sunny field. Autumn progressed, and the afternoons grew shorter. After the picnic in the field, Callie and Ember met a few more times in the small park near City Hall. Their games became increasingly elaborate, and their friendship ever stronger. On one of those afternoons, as the girls chased leaves carried by the wind, Calder noticed that Ember frequently glanced at the park's public clock. "It's getting late," Leah commented, observing her daughter's same concern. "We need to leave before it gets dark." "We can give you a ride," Calder offered. "The car is right there." Leah hesitated, as she always did when someone offered help. "You don't have to bother." Before Calder could insist, Ember ran up to them, pulling Callie by the hand. "Mommy," she said, with an unusual courage in her shy voice, "can Callie come over to our house today, please?" The question caught Leah by surprise. She looked at her daughter, then at Callie, whose blue eyes shone with expectation. "Ember, our house is, well, you know it's small and—" "Please," Ember insisted. "I want to show her my bottle cap collection." Leah looked at Calder, a silent plea for understanding in her eyes. "We can go another day," Calder began, but Callie interrupted him. "Can I go, Dad? Please, I really want to see where Ember lives." Calder saw Leah's dilemma. Pride fought against the desire to make her daughter happy. "Fine, we would be honored by the invitation," he said gently. "If it's not an inconvenience." Leah took a deep breath. "It's no palace." "Neither is ours," Calder replied with a smile, "and we'd have to accept a ride anyway, since it's getting dark." Something in his tone, the complete absence of judgment, seemed to calm Leah. "All right," she finally agreed. "Chai, but I haven't prepared anything for visitors." Ember gave a little jump of joy and hugged her mother. "Thank you, Mommy." In the car, the girls could barely sit still from excitement. Ember, normally so quiet, talked non-stop about all the things she would show Callie. "I have a drawing of us at the park, and my bottle cap collection, and a corner by the window where you can see the stars when the sky is clear." Leah gave the directions. Left on Main Street, then right on Flower Avenue, following it almost to the end of Oak Street. They arrived at a small apartment building, not much different from the others on the street, but visibly older. The blue paint on the facade was peeling in places, and the small front garden needed care. "This is it," Leah said, a touch of anxiety in her voice. "Third floor." They climbed the stairs, as the building had no elevator. On the third floor, Leah took a key from her pocket and opened the door to apartment 3B. "Come in, please." The apartment was small, as Leah had said, but surprisingly cozy. The living room, which also served as a dining room, had a worn but clean sofa, a coffee table with some neatly arranged magazines, and a small table with 2 chairs near the window. The walls were decorated with children's drawings, certainly Ember's work, and a few photographs in simple frames. "Your house is pretty," Callie commented honestly, looking around with curiosity. "Thank you, dear," Leah replied, visibly relieved by the positive reaction. "Come see my room," Ember exclaimed, pulling Callie by the arm. Ember's room was tiny. It barely fit the single bed and a small dresser, but it was impeccably organized. The bed was made with a light blue blanket, and a small star-shaped pillow rested on the main pillow. On the wall above the bed, Ember had pasted paper stars that probably glowed in the dark. "Look," Ember said, opening the top drawer of the dresser, "my bottle cap collection." In a shoebox lined with colored paper, dozens of bottle caps were organized by color. Some had pictures of animals, others of cartoon characters, and some were just soda logos. "Wow," Callie exclaimed, genuinely impressed. "There are so many." 53, Ember replied proudly. Mommy helps me collect them. When we find a nice one on the street, we wash it well and keep it here. In the living room, Calder and Leah were sitting at the small table. Leah had made a simple tea and offered the last cookies she had in the house. I'm sorry we don't have much to offer, she said, embarrassed. The tea is great, Calder assured her, taking a sip. And the company is even better, Leah smiled shyly. They get along so well, don't they? It's almost magical to watch. Callie has never had many friends, Calder confessed. After her mother died, she became very withdrawn. The other kids at school think she's too quiet. Ember has always been reserved, Leah said, looking toward the room from where muffled laughter came. Our life hasn't been easy. We've moved a lot because of work. We never stayed long enough in one place for her to make lasting friendships. There was a moment of silence, broken only by the occasional laughter of the girls. She came home happy that day. A rare thing, Leah said suddenly, her voice low and slightly choked. She had been very sad. When she told me she had made a friend, I cried. She paused, taking a deep breath. She's never had one. Calder listened in silence, feeling the weight of those simple words. The image of Ember, so small, so serious, observing the world with eyes too old for her age, gained a new dimension of understanding. You appeared in our lives like, Leah searched for the right word, like a ray of sunshine after a long storm. Before Calder could reply, the girls returned to the living room, Ember proudly holding a drawing. Look, Mommy, I drew Callie and me at the park. It was a simple drawing, made with colored pencils, two girls with yellow hair, holding hands, under a large green circle that probably represented a tree. The sun smiled in the corner of the paper. It's beautiful, dear, Leah said, smiling. Can I put it on our fridge? Callie asked Calder, already holding the drawing carefully. Of course, he replied, exchanging a knowing look with Leah. In that moment, something indefinable strengthened between them, a silent bond, a mutual understanding that went beyond words. 3 days later, Calder and Callie returned to Leah's apartment. This time, it wasn't a casual visit. Calder carried a large cardboard box in his arms, and Callie brought a decorative bag with colorful ribbons. When Leah opened the door, the surprise on her face was evident. Hi, she said, clearly not expecting visitors. Tash, did something happen? We were just passing by and thought we'd make a quick visit, Calder replied, a gentle smile on his face. Can we come in? Of course, Leah answered, opening the door wider. Ember is just finishing her bath. They entered the small living room. Calder placed the box on the table. What is this? Leah asked, looking curiously at the box. Just some things we thought you could use, Calder replied casually, as if it were no big deal. Leah approached and looked inside the box. It was full of groceries, packages of rice and beans, a few cartons of long-life milk, laundry detergent, flour, sugar, and fresh fruit on top, apples, bananas, and oranges. For a moment, Leah was completely speechless. Her hands trembled slightly as she touched one of the apples. We can't, she began, but her voice failed her. Please, Calder said gently. It's not charity. It's a gift from friends. Leah looked at him, her light green eyes, so much like embers, shining with unshed tears. Thank you so much, she said finally, her voice low and sincere. We really needed this. At that moment, Ember came out of the bathroom, her blonde hair wet and wearing pajamas with little stars. Her eyes widened when she saw the visitors. Callie, she exclaimed, running to hug her friend. I brought something for you, Callie said, holding out the colorful bag. Ember accepted the gift with curious eyes. Inside the bag, carefully wrapped in blue tissue paper, was a rag doll. It wasn't new. It had that soft, slightly faded look of a much-loved toy. But it was clean and well cared for, with a floral dress and a new, light blue ribbon in its brown wool hair. This is Lily, Callie explained. She was mine when I was a baby, but now I want you to have her. Ember looked at the doll as if she were facing an unimaginable treasure. Her little fingers touched the cloth face with reverence. It's for when I'm not with you, Callie continued, so you won't be alone. Ember looked up, and there was an emotion so pure and intense in her eyes that even Calder felt a lump in his throat. "I've always wanted one," she whispered, hugging the doll against her chest. "But Mommy didn't have the money." Leah, watching the scene, swallowed hard. There were moments like this when the innocence and sincerity of children were almost painful to witness, especially when they revealed the limitations that she, as a mother, couldn't overcome. "She's beautiful," Leah managed to say. "What do you say, Ember?" "Thank you," Ember replied, still hugging the doll. Then, suddenly, she smiled, a smile so wide and bright it transformed her serious little face. "Do you want to play with her with me?" "Yes," Callie answered immediately. The two sat on the living room floor, creating a story for Lily. Where she lived, who her friends were, what adventures she had already experienced. The doll passed from one to the other, their excited voices filling the small apartment with a joy that seemed too big for the space. Leah and Calder watched in silence, sitting at the small table. Leah had served tea again, this time accompanied by some cookies Calder had brought in the grocery box. "You didn't have to do this," Leah said softly, so the girls wouldn't hear. "I wanted to," Calder replied simply. "It's the least I can do, after everything Ember has brought into our lives." Leah looked at the girls playing. Ember was laughing, a sound that had become more frequent in recent weeks, but still made Leah's heart tighten with joy every time she heard it. "I've never seen my daughter like this," she confessed. "So free, so childlike." Calder nodded, understanding perfectly. "Sometimes I wonder if we adults don't overcomplicate things. Look at them. All they need is each other." Leah smiled, and there was something different in her eyes now, a sparkle that wasn't there before, as if a window had been opened, letting in the light. It was hope, shy and fragile, but definitely present. The girls continued their game, now building a house for Lily with sofa cushions. Ember held the doll with the care of someone holding something precious and irreplaceable. Every now and then, she would look at Callie with an expression of pure gratitude, as if she still couldn't believe her luck. And Leah, watching all of this, allowed herself, for the first time in a long time, to dream of a better future. A future where Ember's smile wouldn't be a rarity, but something commonplace. A future where they would no longer be alone. Beside her, Calder seemed to understand what she was feeling, without needing words. When their eyes met over the teacups, the bond between them strengthened, silent but increasingly real. Outside, night was falling over the city, but inside that small apartment, something new was beginning to be born, something none of them could have predicted when they first met in that park line. Sunday dawned with a clear sky and a lazy sun that took its time to warm up. In Leah's house, Ember woke up earlier than usual. When she opened her eyes, the first thing she saw was Lily, the rag doll Callie had given her, sitting on the small chair beside her bed. Ember smiled and reached out to pick up the doll. She hugged it against her chest for a moment, feeling the soft fabric and the gentle scent of lavender from its floral dress. It was strange how a simple toy could bring so much joy. "Good morning, Lily," she whispered, adjusting the blue ribbon in the doll's wool hair. "Shall we go see if Mommy is awake?" In the kitchen, Leah was already preparing breakfast. The smell of toast filled the small apartment. "You're up early today," Leah commented upon seeing her daughter enter, still in her pajamas and with Lily held firmly in one hand. "Lily wanted to get up," Ember replied seriously. Then, as if remembering something important, she asked, "What time is Callie coming?" Leah smiled, placing a glass of milk in front of her daughter. "At 10, as we planned. We still have 2 hours." Ember nodded, satisfied, and began to eat her toast. Throughout the meal, the doll sat beside her as if it were part of the family. Promptly at 10 o'clock, the doorbell rang. Ember ran to the door, Lily in one hand, nearly tripping over the living room rug in her haste. Leah opened the door, revealing Calder and Callie, both smiling. Callie was carrying a colorful bag. "Good morning," Callie exclaimed, entering as soon as Leah made way. "I brought things for Lily." The two girls hardly waited for the adults to finish their greetings before running to Ember's room, eager to start their games. In the small but organized room, Callie opened her bag as if revealing a treasure. "Look, pieces of fabric to make new clothes," colorful ribbons for her hair, and she pulled a small book from the bag, a little notebook to write her stories in. Ember's eyes shone. She carefully placed Lily on the bed and examined the treasures Callie had brought. "How are we going to make the clothes?" she asked, touching a piece of blue fabric with golden stars. "Cyrus, my dad helped me cut some patterns," Callie explained, pulling paper shapes from the bag. "We put them on the fabric, draw around them, and then cut. Then we can glue them with this special no-sew glue." It was an ambitious plan for two 5-year-olds, but their determination made up for any lack of skill. They spread the materials on the floor and started to work. With tongues sticking out in concentration, they drew, cut with safety scissors, and glued. The first dress was a bit crooked, with one sleeve longer than the other. The second, a red jumpsuit, came out better. "She needs a hat for sunny days," Ember suggested, now more confident in her design skills. Using a piece of yellow paper, they made a wide-brimmed hat decorated with a pink paper flower. Between giggles and small frustrations when something didn't turn out as planned, the morning flew by. Lily gained a complete wardrobe: 3 dresses, a jumpsuit, a pair of star pajamas identical to Ember's, and the sun hat. "Now we need to give her a special hairstyle," Callie decided, picking up a small brush she had brought. Carefully, the girls combed the doll's wool hair. It was a challenge, as the strands sometimes got tangled, but they worked patiently, like professionals in a beauty salon. "2 braids, just like yours," Ember suggested, looking at Callie's blonde braids. The result wasn't exactly what they planned, more like complicated knots than braids, but they both declared it the most beautiful thing they had ever seen. "She's ready for her big adventure," Callie announced. "What adventure?" Ember asked, curious. "We have to make one up. All dolls have special stories." And so they began to create Lily's world. According to the girls, she was a brave explorer who traveled the world helping animals in danger. She had magic powers when she wore her yellow hat and could talk to birds and squirrels. Meanwhile, in the living room, Calder and Leah talked quietly over coffee. Through the ajar bedroom door, they could hear fragments of the fantastic stories the girls were creating. "They have an incredible imagination," Calder commented, smiling as he heard Callie imitate the voice of a squirrel in distress. "Ember has always been like that," Leah replied. Even when she didn't have toys, she would make up stories with household objects. A spoon would become a princess, a matchbox, a magic car. She paused, looking at the cup in her hands. "I think it's a way to escape, when reality isn't so colorful." Calder nodded, understanding perfectly. Callie buried herself in books after... He hesitated. "After we lost Sarah." It was the first time he had mentioned his wife's name. Leah recognized the importance of that moment. "That must have been very difficult," she said softly. Calder looked out the window at the blue sky. It was cancer. It started in her lung, then it spread, too fast for any treatment to work. His voice was calm, as if speaking of something that had happened a long time ago, in another life. But Leah could see the pain still present in the corners of his eyes. "Callie was only 3, he continued. "Sometimes I wonder how much she really remembers. Other times, I see her looking at her mother's photo and I know that somehow she misses something she barely got to know." In the bedroom, the girls' laughter continued, oblivious to the serious conversation of the adults. "I never imagined I'd be a single father," Calder confessed. "Cite in the first few months I could barely function, if it weren't for Callie, for knowing she needed me." He didn't finish the sentence, but it wasn't necessary. Leah took a sip of coffee, gathering her courage. "I found out I was pregnant with Ember 3 days after Jamie left. He said he was going out for cigarettes." She laughed, a humorless sound. "The oldest cliché in the book, isn't it? He never came back." "I'm sorry," Calder said sincerely. "At first it was terrifying. I was 22, no college degree, a part-time job at a diner. My parents had already passed away, and I had no siblings." She shook her head as if still not believing she had survived those times. "When the doctor showed me the ultrasound and said, 'It's a girl,' something changed inside me. Suddenly, it wasn't about me anymore, but about her." Calder watched her with a new kind of respect. The quiet strength of this woman was something rare, precious. The years flew by and crawled by at the same time. You know how it is. One day at a time, one problem at a time. We moved cities 3 times, following job opportunities. It was never easy, but she glanced toward the room, where Ember's excited voice came from. Look at her, it was worth every second. An especially loud laugh from the girls made them both smile. Pain changes you, Calder commented after a moment. Leah nodded slowly. But sometimes, it brings you closer. Their eyes met over the coffee cups, and something silent passed between them, an understanding that went beyond words, a mutual recognition of battles fought and survived. In the bedroom, Lily's story had reached a crucial point. The Explorer doll had found a sad dragon, represented by a pillow with 2 buttons for eyes, that could no longer breathe fire. Jaji can give the dragon some of her magic, Ember suggested, moving Lily to touch the bar dragon with her little cloth hand. Good idea, Callie agreed enthusiastically. But first, he has to promise to only use his fire for good things, like lighting campfires for lost travelers in the forest. The 2 worked on this elaborate story until lunchtime, when Leah called them to eat. The small kitchen table was set with the best Leah could offer, a homemade soup, fresh bread, bought with the money Calder had left on his last visit, and a pitcher of juice. The girls insisted that Lily join the meal, sitting between them on a pile of books to be at the right height. She's not hungry today, Ember explained seriously when Leah asked if the doll wanted soup. She ate too many magic berries in the enchanted forest. Calder and Leah exchanged smiles across the table. It was impossible not to be infected by the children's sincere joy. After lunch, while Leah washed the dishes, politely refusing Calder's help, the girls returned to their games. Now Lily was exploring the ocean, Ember's bed covered with a blue sheet, in search of an enchanted pearl, a small white button. The hours passed, and the sun began to dip toward the horizon. It would soon be time for Calder and Callie to leave. I need to use the bathroom, Callie announced, leaving the room. Alone with Lily, Ember straightened the doll's floral dress and adjusted her hair. There was a serious expression on her little face, as if she were thinking about something important. When Callie returned, Ember looked at her with those light green eyes, full of an emotion that was hard to name. It's nice to have a friend, she said simply, her voice soft but firm. Callie smiled, sitting down next to her on the floor. Now you have one. Those 3 simple words seemed to hold an enormous promise. Ember hugged Lily against her chest, as if that moment were too precious to let slip away. After a moment of silence, Ember spoke again, her voice even lower, almost a secret. You know, I dream of studying. Callie looked at her, curious. At school? Yes. And after, I want to learn everything about the stars, the animals, the countries far away from here. There was a gleam in her eyes that went beyond the common dreams of a 5-year-old. Mommy says books are doors to other worlds. Callie thought for a moment, her little face concentrated. Then, with the direct simplicity of children, she offered, maybe one day we'll study together. Until then, I can teach you some things. You can? Ember asked, her eyes widening with hope. Of course, I can read some words already, and numbers up to 100. And I know where Africa is on the map. Ember smiled, a smile that lit up her whole face. Yet I can count to 20, and I know how to write my name. We can make a school for Lily too, Callie suggested. Teach her to read and write. And so, amidst their games, a new purpose was born. Lily was no longer just an explorer, but also a dedicated student. The girls used the notebook Callie had brought to draw letters and numbers, patiently explaining to the doll what each symbol meant. In the living room, the afternoon sun streamed through the windows, creating golden patterns on the floor. Calder and Leah had continued their conversation, moving beyond past pains to talk about future hopes, timid, cautious, but real. I want Ember to have opportunities I didn't, Leah explained. She's smart, she absorbs everything like a sponge, but school isn't just about books. It's about being with other children, making friends. She has Callie now, Calder observed. Yes, Leah smiled, and that has changed everything. It was soon time to leave. The girls returned to the living room, Lily between them, now wearing her floral dress and yellow hat. "We need to go," Calder announced, checking the time. "It's getting late." Callie pouted in disappointment, but didn't protest. Ember held Lily a little tighter, as if the toy could compensate for her friend's departure. "Can we play again tomorrow?" Callie asked hopefully. The adults exchanged glances. "I have a job interview tomorrow," Leah explained, "but maybe on Wednesday, after school." "Perfect," Calder agreed. "We can meet at the park." At the door, the girls said goodbye with a tight hug. Ember held Lily with one arm while hugging Callie with the other. "And don't forget to teach Lily how to write the letter A," Callie reminded her. "It's the most important one, because it's the first." "I will," Ember promised solemnly. When Calder and Callie finally left, Leah closed the door and leaned against it for a moment. She looked at Ember, who was sitting on the living room floor, already showing Lily how to draw the letter A on a sheet of paper. Something had changed. The small apartment, which had always felt like a temporary place, a temporary shelter, now began to feel like a real home. And maybe, Leah thought as she watched her daughter play, it wasn't because of the place itself, but because of the new connections they had found. Calder and Callie weren't just visitors, they were friends, maybe even more than that. It was a beginning, a real bond, born from shared pain and rediscovered joy. And as the sun set outside, painting the sky pink and gold, Leah allowed herself to believe that, just maybe, tomorrow could be brighter than yesterday had been. The rain had been falling incessantly for 3 days, turning the city streets into small, persistent rivers. In Leah's apartment, leaks had appeared in 2 corners of the living room, forcing them to place buckets to collect the water that insisted on invading their home. On that Tuesday morning, Ember was sitting at the kitchen table, drawing while waiting for her mother to return from downstairs, where she had gone to get the mail. Lily, the doll, was carefully positioned beside her, wearing the blue dress with stars that matched Ember's own. "Look, Lily," she said, showing her drawing to the doll. "This is the dream house. It has a room just for you, and a garden where we can plant yellow flowers." The door opened, and Leah entered, shaking her wet umbrella. Her hair was damp at the ends, and there was something on her face, a tension around her eyes, a stiffness in her lips, that Ember recognized immediately. It was the expression her mother made when there was trouble, but she didn't want her to know. "Are you okay, Mommy?" Ember asked, lowering her colored pencil. "Of course, honey," Leah replied, forcing a smile that didn't reach her eyes, just a little wet from the rain. She placed a few letters on the table but held a beige envelope in her hands. Ember watched as her mother's fingers squeezed the paper too tightly. "I'll make lunch," Leah announced, putting the envelope in her apron pocket. How about vegetable soup today?" "Nice," Ember replied, still watching her mother with attentive eyes. "Can I help?" "Of course, my love. Can you wash the carrots?" As they prepared lunch together, Ember noticed her mother was different. Leah cooked in silence, lost in thought. Sometimes she would look out the window at the rain, sighing in a way that made Ember's heart ache. When the soup was finally ready, they sat down to eat. Ember made sure Lily joined them, as always. "Mommy," Ember said after a few spoonfuls, "are you sad?" Leah looked up, surprised. "Why do you think that, honey?" "You have that face," Ember replied simply. "The face you make when there's a problem." Leah put her spoon down and took a deep breath. For a moment it seemed she would say everything was fine, as she always did. But then she looked at her daughter, so small, yet so perceptive, and decided on the truth. "Yes, I'm a little worried," she admitted. "But we'll figure it out." "We always do, don't we?" Ember nodded seriously. "We always do," she repeated, like a familiar mantra. That afternoon, the rain lessened a bit, enough for them to go to the park to meet Calder and Callie, as they had arranged. Ember put on her yellow rain boots, her waterproof jacket, and a hat Leah had knitted last winter. Lily was also properly bundled up, with an improvised shawl made from a piece of fabric. At the park, Callie was already waiting, jumping in puddles with her red boots. When she saw Ember, she ran towards her, splashing water everywhere. "Ember, you came!" she shouted, hugging her friend. "Son, I thought you wouldn't come because of the rain. "We promised," Ember replied, as if that explained everything. And to her, it did. Promises were sacred. The girls soon became engrossed in a complex game of rain explorers, with Lily as the official guide of the expedition. Meanwhile, Calder and Leah sat on a covered bench. "Samus, how was the job interview yesterday?" Calder asked after they exchanged greetings. Leah shook her head. "It didn't work out. They said they needed someone with more sales experience." "I'm sorry," Calder said, and there was sincerity in his voice. "I'm sure something will turn up soon." Leah tried to smile, but her eyes betrayed her worry. She looked at Ember, who was jumping in a particularly large puddle, laughing with Callie. Something's wrong, Calder realized. It wasn't a question. Leah hesitated for a moment, but then she took the crumpled envelope from her pocket. "I received this today," she said, handing it to Calder. "An eviction notice. We have 2 weeks to leave." Calder read the document, his face growing more serious with each line. "But why? Don't you pay the rent on time?" "I always have," Leah answered, frustration evident in her voice. "But the building was sold. The new owner is going to renovate everything and raise the rents. They're evicting all the current tenants." "That's terrible," Calder said, handing the envelope back. "What are you going to do?" Leah looked down at her hands. "I don't know yet. Maybe I can get a temporary room in a boarding house until I find another place. The problem is that all the cheap apartments in town require a 3-month deposit, and I don't have that kind of money right now." Calder watched the girls playing, oblivious to the adults' worries. Callie was holding Lily up high to protect her from a particularly large puddle, while Ember laughed, her little face lit up with joy. "I'll come live with us," he said suddenly, the words coming out before he could even think them through. No rush, no obligation. Leah looked at him, surprised. "What?" "My house has enough space," Calder continued, now with more conviction. "We have a guest room that no one uses. You could stay there until you get back on your feet." "Calder, I can't accept that," Leah said, shaking her head. "It's too generous. We barely know each other, and—" "We know each other enough," Calder interrupted gently. "And it's not just for you. Look at them." They both looked at the girls, who were now holding hands, spinning in circles under the light rain, their faces turned up to the sky and laughter escaping their lips. "Callie has never been so happy," Calder said quietly. "Since Ember came into our lives, it's like a light has been turned back on. And I think the same goes for you and Ember." Leah didn't answer immediately. Her eyes were fixed on her daughter, on the way she laughed freely, how her normally serious little face now radiated pure joy. "It wouldn't be fair to you," she finally said, "having 2 strangers invading your home, your routine." "You're not strangers," Calder replied firmly. "And as for fairness, well, life is rarely fair, is it? Sometimes all we can do is help each other through the tough times." The girls noticed they were being watched and ran to the bench. "What are you talking about?" Callie asked, curious. Calder and Leah exchanged glances. It was Calder who answered. "I was inviting Ember and her mom to stay at our house for a while." Callie's eyes widened with excitement. "Like a sleepover that never ends," she exclaimed. "Something like that," Calder laughed. "Please say yes," Callie pleaded, turning to Leah. Without waiting for an answer, she hugged the woman, her wet little arms wrapping around her with childish enthusiasm. Ember, who had been quiet until then, looked at her mother with those green eyes that seemed to understand much more than should be possible for a 5-year-old. "Is it because of the letter that made you sad?" she asked. Leah nodded, surprised once again by her daughter's perception. "Yes, honey, we need to find a new place to live." "Can we live with Callie?" Ember asked, a small, hopeful smile appearing on her lips. Faced with those 3 pairs of expectant eyes, Callie's blue ones, full of enthusiasm, Calder's brown ones, kind and sincere, and Ember's green ones, hopeful and trusting, Leah felt something inside her give way, a wall she had built over the years, brick by brick, to protect herself and Ember from disappointment and pain. "All right," she finally said, the words almost a whisper. "We accept your invitation." "Thank you." Callie let out a squeal of joy and hugged Ember, who smiled, a smile so wide and bright it brought tears to Leah's eyes. For the first time in many years, Leah accepted help, not with reluctance or shame, but with a kind of quiet courage. The courage to trust, to allow herself to need someone other than herself. The move happened the following Sunday. There wasn't much to take. Clothes, a few books, Ember's bottle cap collection, a few pots and pans Leah insisted on keeping. Everything fit into 4 large boxes and 2 suitcases. Calder's house felt different from the moment they crossed the threshold, not just because of the boxes piled in the entryway, but because of the energy that now filled the space. The guest room was transformed into a cozy refuge for Leah, with fresh flowers in a vase on the dresser. "It's temporary," Leah repeated, more to herself than to others. "Just until we find our own place." Calder just nodded, not pressing, "for as long as you need." The girls, of course, had other plans. On the first night, Callie asked, or rather begged, for Ember to sleep in her room instead of the guest room. "Please, Dad, we can make a real bed on the floor with blankets and pillows," Callie argued. "It'll be like camping, but indoors." Faced with her enthusiasm, the adults gave in, and so an improvised bed was set up next to Callie's bed. With so many pillows and blankets, it looked like a small nest. That first night, the house vibrated with a new energy. Different smells came from the kitchen, where Leah had insisted on preparing dinner as a small form of thanks. The aroma of roasted chicken with herbs spread through the rooms, mingling with the smell of fresh bread. Laughter echoed through the hallway and up the stairs as the girls ran up and down, showing Ember every corner of the house. Soft voices floated through the house at night, conversations between Calder and Leah in the living room after the girls went to sleep, low words exchanged with honesty and mutual respect. In the girls' room, lying in their respective beds, Callie and Ember made plans in the dark, their small voices full of big dreams. "We'll go to school together," Callie said. "I'll show you the library. It has lots of books about animals and faraway countries. And we can walk home together every day," Ember added, "and do our homework together. And play in the garden afterwards. And take care of Lily together." The rag doll lay between the 2 beds, like a silent guardian of their shared dreams. "Ember?" Callie called after a moment of silence. "Yes, I'm happy you came to live here." "Me too," Ember replied, her voice soft in the darkness. "Very happy." In the days that followed, the house transformed. Small changes happened: a pot of Leah's in the kitchen, a drawing by Ember on the fridge, a new organization system on the shelves. The house, which once seemed too big for just 2 people, was now perfectly filled. Calder started coming home from work earlier. Before, he used to stay late at the office, postponing his return to a house that, despite Callie's love, often seemed to echo with absences. Now he couldn't wait to get back, eager to hear the stories of the day, to join the dinner prepared by 4 hands, to participate in the girls' games. On a particularly sunny afternoon, about 2 weeks after the move, Calder came home to find a scene that made his heart stop for a moment. Leah and the girls in the backyard, planting flowers in small, colorful pots. The late afternoon sun lit up their blonde hair, creating a golden halo around them. Laughter floated in the air like music. Leah looked up and saw Calder standing at the back door, watching them. She smiled, a smile that had lost the hesitation of the first few weeks, a smile that seemed to say, "We're okay here." And they were. The house was not just alive now, it was full. Full of sounds, smells, colors, of stories being created every day, full of possibilities. That night, after the girls had finally fallen asleep, exhausted from so much play, Calder and Leah sat on the porch with cups of tea. The starry sky stretched above them, infinite and full of promise. "Thank you," Leah said quietly, looking at the stars. "Fine for all of this." Calder watched her delicate profile against the night sky. There was so much he wanted to say, so many emotions that had grown inside him over the past few weeks. But for now, he contented himself with replying, "I'm the one who should be thanking you for bringing life back to this house." Leah turned to look at him, and something passed between them, a silent understanding, a possibility. The future suddenly seemed a much less lonely place. Above them, the stars shone like silent witnesses to a new beginning. And inside the house, 2 little girls slept soundly, their hands outstretched toward each other even in sleep, as if not even dreams could separate them now. The days turned into weeks, and the weeks into months. Autumn gave way to winter, which was now beginning to show the first signs of retreating for the arrival of spring. The trees on Maple Street displayed small green buds, shy promises of rebirth. The house at number 47 had changed, not just inside, with the small touches Leah had brought, the colorful curtains in the kitchen, the potted plants on the windowsills, the girls' drawings framed on the walls. But in its very essence, what was once an organized and functional space had become a true home, noisy at times, messy on certain days, but always, always welcoming. The temporary that Leah mentioned frequently in the first few weeks had gradually dissolved, like snow under the sun. Not for lack of trying, she did look for other places, even visited a few apartments. But there was always something that wasn't right. Too far from the girls' and school, too expensive, too small. And with each return to Calder's house, the sense of belonging grew stronger. On that March evening, especially mild for the season, Calder had turned on some fairy lights on the front porch, small white stars that twinkled softly, creating a cozy atmosphere. After the girls had finally fallen asleep, exhausted after a full day of playing and preparing for their first day at the new school tomorrow, he invited Leah to join him. "It's a beautiful night," he commented, handing her a cup of tea. Leah accepted the warm drink with a smile and sat in the rocking chair beside him. "Perfect," she agreed, looking at the starry sky above them. For a few minutes, they sat in comfortable silence, just listening to the soft sounds of the night, the rustle of new leaves, the distant chirp of a cricket, the occasional melody of a car passing down the quiet street. "Can you believe tomorrow is the big day?" Leah asked finally. Calder smiled, rocking gently in his chair. "Is Ember nervous?" "A little. But having Callie by her side makes all the difference." Leah took a sip of tea. She tried on her uniform at least 10 times today, and she packed her backpack 3 times to make sure nothing was missing. "Callie insisted on sleeping in her uniform," Calder laughed. "I had to convince her it would be better to wear clean clothes in the morning." They laughed together, the kind of laughter that comes from shared understanding, from the common experience of raising children. The crescent moon softly lit the street before them. The house was quiet except for the steady ticking of the living room clock and the occasional creak of the wood settling. "You know," Calder said after a moment, his voice lower, more thoughtful, "since you arrived, this house has started to breathe again." Leah turned to look at him, the soft light of the fairy lights illuminating her face. Her green eyes, so much like embers, shone with contained emotion. "And I started to believe again," she replied simply. There was so much meaning in those short words, entire stories of overcome pain, of renewed hopes, of rediscovered possibilities. Calder understood it all without needing explanations. He reached out his hand, hesitant at first, and then with more certainty. Leah intertwined her fingers with his. Their joined hands rested in the space between the chairs, a physical bridge that mirrored the deeper connection that had grown between them. "I've been thinking a lot," Calder began, his eyes on hers, "about how unpredictable life is. How a small moment, a seemingly insignificant decision can change everything." Leah nodded, knowing exactly what he meant. "That day at the park." "That day at the park," he repeated. "If Callie hadn't seen Ember, if I hadn't let her go talk to a stranger, if I hadn't bought that 3rd ticket, if I had said no," Leah completed. The rocking of the chairs had naturally synchronized, as if even this simple movement needed to be in harmony. "I'm not a man who easily believes in fate," Calder confessed. "But sometimes I wonder." "I know," Leah smiled. "Me too." Another comfortable silence settled between them. It wasn't the kind of silence that needs to be filled, but the kind that is appreciated, like soft music. "Leah," Calder said finally, turning more completely towards her, "I want you to know that this isn't temporary for me. It's not charity or an arrangement of convenience." "I know," she replied, lightly squeezing his hand. "What I mean is," he paused, searching for the right words, "I don't know exactly how it happened, or when. Maybe from the first day, when I saw you on the park bench, with that job section and so much pride in your eyes. Or maybe it was gradual, like a sunrise, so slow you barely notice until suddenly everything is illuminated. Leah waited, her heart beating a little faster. I fell in love with you, Calder said at last, the words simple and true. For your smile, for your strength, for the mother you are, for the incredible woman who faces the world with such dignity. And I want you to stay, not as a guest, not as a temporary arrangement, as a partner, as family. Leah's eyes glistened with unshed tears. Calder, You don't have to answer now, he said quickly. I know it's a lot. I know you have a past, as I do. I know you have to think of Ember above all else, just as I think of Callie. It's not that. Leah shook her head, a smile forming on her lips. It's that I'm afraid of wanting something so much and then losing it. I'm afraid too, Calder admitted. After Sarah, I promised myself I wouldn't open my heart again, that I would dedicate myself only to Callie. But then you appeared, and Ember, and suddenly there was so much space again, so much possible love. Leah took a deep breath, like someone preparing to dive into unknown waters. I fell in love with you too, she confessed, for your kindness, for your quiet strength, for the father you are, for the man who offered help without making me feel less for needing it. The rocking chairs stopped moving. In the silence of the night, their words hung between them, true and transformative. It's not a fairy tale, Calder said softly. There will be difficult days, moments when our past wounds will come back to haunt us, challenges we'll have to face. I know, Leah agreed. I don't want a fairy tale. I want something real, something true. That's what we have, Calder smiled. Possible love and true. He leaned in slowly, giving her time to pull back if she wanted, but Leah moved closer, meeting him halfway. The kiss was soft, gentle. Not a beginning, really, because they had already started a long time ago, since that first meeting at the park. It was more of a confirmation, a seal on an invisible contract already established between their hearts. When they parted, Leah rested her head on his shoulder, and they continued rocking gently under the starry sky, their hands still joined. The girls are going to be so happy, Calder commented after a while. Leah chuckled softly. I think they already know. Children notice more than we imagine. True, Calder agreed. Callie asked me the other day when I was going to ask you to be my girlfriend, said I was taking too long. Ember asked me if I loved you, like in the stories, Leah recounted. When I asked what stories, she said, the ones where people stay together forever. They laughed together, the sound of their laughter blending into the quiet night, rising towards the stars like a prayer of gratitude. The day dawned clear and bright, as if the sun itself wanted to celebrate the new beginning. In the kitchen, breakfast was special. Pancakes with maple syrup, fresh fruit cut into fun shapes, and orange juice in colorful glasses. Ember and Callie sat side by side at the table, both wearing the navy blue uniform of Oak Ridge Elementary School. Their blonde hair had been styled identically, 2 braids tied with blue ribbons that matched the uniform. So are you nervous? Leah asked, placing another pancake on each of their plates. A little bit, Ember admitted. Not at all, Callie replied at the same time, then looked at her friend and corrected. Well, maybe a little bit too. It's normal to have butterflies in your stomach on the first day, Calder explained, sitting down with them at the table. Even adults feel it when they start something new. Really? Ember asked, and her green eyes wide. Really? Leah confirmed, exchanging a meaningful look with Calder. The girls ate with enthusiasm, talking about all the things they might learn, the friends they would make, the games at recess. Lily is sad she can't go, Ember commented, looking at the doll which now had a permanent place on the extra kitchen chair. She can wait on your bed, Callie suggested, and you can tell her all about it when we get back. Good idea, Ember agreed, seeming relieved to have solved this dilemma. After breakfast, final checks of the backpacks and many photos, Calder insisted on documenting the big day. It was finally time to leave. The girls put on their backpacks, a purple one for Callie, a blue one for Ember, and picked up their matching lunchboxes. Ready? Leah asked, grabbing the car keys. Wait, Calder said. How about we walk today? It's such a beautiful day and the school isn't far. Can we, Mommy? Ember asked hopefully. Please. Callie joined the plea. Leah smiled. Of course. A walk will be perfect. The four of them left together, but on the sidewalk, Calder gestured for Leah to stop. Let's let them go a little ahead, he suggested quietly. Shall I give them this moment? Leah understood immediately. They stopped on the porch watching the girls walk down the driveway. Ember and Callie, holding hands, started down the street towards the school. Their backpacks bounced in sync, their steps naturally aligned. Every now and then one would say something that made the other laugh. Calder put his arm around Leah's shoulders, and she rested her head against him. Somehow a cup of coffee appeared in each of their free hands, a small comfort to watch this significant moment. Look at them, Leah said softly, so small and already so strong together. One supporting the other, Calder agreed. As it should be. The girls paused briefly to watch a squirrel cross the street, then continued on their way, still holding hands, their blonde hair shining in the morning sun. It's incredible to think how it all started, Leah reflected, with a simple question. Do you want to come with us? Calder quoted, remembering Callie's words that day at the park. 4 words that changed our lives, Leah smiled. They stood there on the porch of the house that now truly belonged to all 4 of them, watching the girls walk away. There was a deep peace in that moment. Not the peace that comes from the absence of problems, but the peace born from the certainty of not facing them alone. On the horizon, the sun rose in the sky, bathing Maple Street in golden light. The girls were now small silhouettes in the distance, still holding hands, still walking together. You know what I think, Calder said, his eyes following the girls, that it wasn't by chance. What? Leah asked, looking at him. All of this, the 4 of us, together, as if we were destined to find each other, to form this family. Leah smiled, feeling the truth of those words resonate within her. A family that was born in the park, she said quietly. Calder nodded, gently squeezing her against him. A family built on choices. With small yeses said at the right moments, the girls turned the corner, momentarily disappearing from view, only to reappear on the other side, still side by side, still smiling. A home is built like this, not with bricks and mortar, but with trust and compassion. Not with perfect plans, but with the courage to improvise. Not with certainties, but with the willingness to take a risk. Not with grand gestures, but with small kindnesses repeated day after day. It is made of moments like this. 2 children walking to school, side by side. 2 adults watching from the porch, with coffee in their hands and peace in their hearts. 4 hearts that, by chance or destiny, found each other. It all started with a simple question. Do you want to come with us? And it changed everyone's life.